This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by Blood Letters by GMB Kamichuk and Ariel Gordon. Blood Letters is an artifact from the future, a jumbled archive of robots, soldiers, dot matrix printouts, ID cards, propaganda posters, photos, maps, and letters. The human detritus offering hints that something has gone horribly wrong. Available where all books are.
Attention, citizens! It's time for Super Pulp Science!
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how a genre gets made. I'm here with my long-suffering co-host, known the world over as Chasing Artwork. It is none other than Justin Curry, who has returned to early mornings at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear it for Justin.
Woo.
Our studio audience is chiming in. No? Producer extraordinaire Dan Vadeboncoeur is also here with us.
Hello.
And though he is sometimes in our crosshairs as a collaborator, now he has lifted far beyond us to the rarefied air, which I will call mainstream comics. Lyndon Rachenka is here with us today, and I'm holding in my hands DC's Satanic Panic, the 80-page giant. And whose name should I find first in the credits? None other than friend of the studio, Lyndon. Congratulations.
Hey, happy new comic book day.
Yeah, it is New Comic Book Day.
It's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday. Now, for the dear listener who doesn't know too much about the Wednesday warrior culture, Wednesday is New Comic Book Day every week, and for many decades, Wednesday, the world over, new comics were delivered the day before Wednesday. So Tuesday, shops would receive their orders. We can't get water to every corner of the planet for people, but new comics could reach everywhere on the planet Tuesdays, so that Wednesday warriors could show up to get their new stuff. And the distribution, the new and renewed distro wars meant that it's a little bit staggered now, but it is officially Wednesday, and we are holding your new comic, which I actually picked up yesterday ahead of sale. These are your comp copies.
These are my comp copies we've got in the studio.
So this is before sale date. Dun, dun, dun.
But they are officially on sale now, so it's fine.
Yes, we're fine. Everything's fine. I would like to point out to our dear listener that Lyndon is also the author of Hero Man from Ape Press with Zach Schuster. He is also the author of There Was Another Life, him and Stephen Call, friend of the studio, and The Laundrymen, also with Stephen Call.
You may have heard of it.
You may have heard of it many times. But there is a transition that has happened, something that is not, we should not take lightly. You are now in the mainstream. Tell us about it. What is it like?
I'm only capable of presenting it lightly as a form of self-defense. When Zach and I traveled to France last year to promote Hero Man, we were promoted to the International Comics Festival as makers of superhero comics.
Oh, no.
Which was funny, because not necessarily accurate in the way that a normal person would think about it. And also in that culture, like, not something to brag about. Because they have what they would say is more artistic taste than the dominance of superhero comics that we have here in the West. But nevertheless, here in the West, superhero comics are still 80% of the market. And
so much so that in North America, the medium is confused with the message regularly.
Right.
You believe that comics are about superheroes here in the West, but in the rest of the world, comics are a medium, and you can tell any kind of story in comics. But here in the West, primarily superheroes. So you're a superhero comics maker.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm a superhero comics maker. Like,
officially.
But like a baby one, right? Like, it's a 10-page story in a seasonal anthology. It's not an ongoing series.
It does say number 1 on it.
It does say, yeah, I don't think it's an ongoing series.
More collectible. We're in the mainstream.
Is that why they did it?
Because number ones
are more...
Obviously,
Yeah.
that must be it. I'm sure there's some sort of, like, not network, but like cataloging requirement that everything needs to be numbered in a series in the periodical.
Yeah, in order to be a periodical. Now, I want to point out two things in the what's this thing called?
The book.
Table of contents.
The table of contents. Man, it's been a morning. In the table of contents that are really excited to me. Number one is Swamp Thing and Constantine in the story by Andrew MacLean.
Oh, great story.
And also Indie Darling, Daniel Warren Johnson, and Riley Rossmo
Great story.
also have a story in this
Because it's like a
collection.
spooky Halloween anthology.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say that if it were me, that would be the part. Like, there are great names in this collection in general, but the part of me that really admires how people have made their own path through comics, those names I just listed, I really have been watching them for many years and watching them make that path through comics, and I admire so many of the moves they've made. And so I think it's pretty awesome that you get to share, or rather that they get to share that table of contents with
No, it's
Mr.
the other way around.
Yeah.
Let's be serious here. These, like, Daniel Warren Johnson, Riley Rossmo, Andrew MacLean, they're so much bigger. They're, like, in my view, I mean, I think Kevin Scott has written a number of books. I've actually Star Wars books, Dan. You can look this up in the background if you like.
Sure.
But the names that I recognize the most that aren't me are Daniel Warren Johnson, Riley Rossmo, and Andrew MacLean, not just because I lettered his Death Fight Forever book, so it's cool to be sharing a DC book together. But
Now that we're
yeah,
I don't want to leap over anything. Now that we're allowed to talk about things,
yeah.
did you guys talk at all through back channels about how you were in this collection together? Comics is such a weird place where sometimes you are allowed, aren't allowed, should mention, can't mention. Did he know that you were in this collection, and did you know he was before the rest of us?
I mean, I knew. I found out that he was in the book and that Daniel Warren Johnson and Riley Rossmo were in the book when I
Editorial.
when I was assigned Zatanna from editorial. Right. But Andrew and I had never talked about this book. Riley and I talked about this book. But no, it was our Death Fight Forever work was very separate from this.
Very separate.
And for the dear listener who may not follow DC Comics all that closely, a few times a year DC does what we call seasonal anthologies. So DC's Satanic Panic, there's a Valentine's Day one often, there's a summer one often, and my understanding of them is that it's a good opportunity to try out new talent or to give people who haven't worked for the company before some space to do a story. So that's how I ended up in this work.
I wanted to talk process for a little bit because working with these big names in DC, you're very separated from them in a way that you weren't with your other projects. You work with Stephen Call on There Was Another Life and Infinite Universe, and then you work with Zach very closely on Hero Man, and in Dire Beast you wrote and drew it yourself. So all these other collaborations, you were like a phone call away, a text away, or you were with them in the room. And then with this, did you even know your illustrator before you started writing it?
I had when editorial contacted me and said, "We have space for you in this anthology. You can pitch us your ideas." They said at the time that they wanted to pair me with John McCrae, who's the artist of
He did
the Zatanna story. We did.
He's also worked on Demon and Hitman. He's worked for Marvel and Dark Horse in 2000 AD, and he's been a long time figurehead in the comic
forgotten
world.
more than I'm ever going to learn,
Yeah,
probably.
for sure.
So I knew going in who the artist might be, but he wasn't confirmed until my pitch was confirmed.
And in these other projects that you worked on prior, did you have the complete script kind of tidied up with a bow on it and sent it off? Or was it kind of an evolving back and forth process? Whereas this one, you did kind of have to finish and then send off.
Yeah, for the indie stuff, there's a lot more back and forth. I mean, Zach just outright ignores what I tell him to draw when I hand him a script.
Typical artist.
So
Yeah.
does Gregory. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know, Gregory.
Yes. Oh, you're gonna know soon.
Good evening. Good evening. Ordinary deck of cards.
And like when it's Steven and I, we're often bouncing ideas back and forth before we get to a final script stage. And a lot of the scripts are like, this is the idea, but do something cooler here if you want to. And I mean, in my script to John, I very clearly outlined to him, like, you're going to make this cooler than anything that I can describe. Feel like you are emboldened to do so if you want to, but here is how I'm imagining things. And I'll adjust to it when it comes back.
Is there any particular panel or scene that he went in a completely different direction or did exactly what you thought he was going to do? Or
the one that stood out early is there's a panel in the story where towards the end of the story where Zatanna is returning to a grave that she's eventually going to use to teleport back to the magic show that she's performing. And John's illustration of it was to have her flying straight in and out of it rather than I think I had something that was a lot more boring and normal, which was climbing into it. But he had her actually manipulating the magic to just use it as a door rather than how I had imagined it. And that was like the first instance because the pages were done out of order. I think that was one of the first pages that I got to see. And I noted, oh, this is not how I imagined it. This is way better because what I wrote was boring. And John has made this better, which is sort of the secret power of this story, in my opinion, was that between working with John and colorist Mike Spicer, I just got to kind of hang back and ride the coattails of people who are industry legends more than me and enjoy the spoils of that.
Also, where Zatanna's pops is like in the box, and the box is like hinged and broken while he's in there. Was that in your original direction, or is that was in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that's a great moment. So there's a moment where no artistic adjustment necessary to just hit the beat of the story.
Right.
Speaking of artistic adjustment, you're also a letterer from time to time.
That's right.
How badly did you want to letter your own story?
I didn't at all.
No, you were happy to
It
send the script in?
was a strategic decision. I did not want to letter my own story because I want to be thought of as a writer.
Okay.
Rather than a letterer. Don't get me wrong, I'm also a letterer. I letter my own books. I letter for other people's books.
What's all this shade on letterers?
Letterers are great.
Ed Bryson is going to call you out.
No, lettering is great. And when I got all of the art back from John and was doing what we call the lettering revision for the story, where you send them your script and they send you the art, and now you have to make adjustments to your script based on the art. I lettered my own story, and that allowed me to see the adjustments that I wanted to make in the script in a very concrete way rather than like an abstract idea way. And I did give that to my editor and said, this is just for illustrative purposes so you can see how I'm imagining things. But I didn't offer to letter the story. I don't know if they would have let me also because Ariana did a great job in this one. But the initial thought was, I want them to think of me as a writer first. And if there is lettering work to be had, I will do that later on. But for the time being,
I feel like there's some money to be saved there. He's a bundle deal, right?
He's a bundle deal. No, but I think the move is like you don't want them to say like, oh, well, Lyndon, we've decided we're going to have a different writer do it, but you can still letter it and you're still involved and you're still on the team. Like you didn't want that to happen either, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
I
have criticisms of this collection.
Of course. Start with mine.
No, just in general.
Oh. Okay.
This is just my general criticism of DC's Satanic Panic.
To any DC executive listening to this podcast, I would like to preface this next segment by saying none of these views are reflected by me, nor have they been vetted by me, nor have I heard them before now, nor do I necessarily agree with them.
Here we go. So, let me just ask you guys who haven't read the issue. DC's Satanic Panic. There's 8 stories in it. How many of them do you think feature Zatanna?
I would hazard a guess and say all of them should.
Yeah, you would think that is what you're buying. And so my big problem always with how mainstream comics pitches and sells collections is there's a little bit of intrepidity that goes into tricking people into buying what isn't actually for sale. If Zatanna wasn't the hot one, would it have been called The Plastic Man? Would it have been called
Plastic Panic?
Plastic Spastic. Would they have just given it a different name and then had yours tucked in under behind it? I don't understand an editorial direction that has all these different horror stories that don't feature Zatanna. I'm so happy that yours is the only one and that you got to write it, because then it makes it more foundational in your meteoric rise through the ranks of mainstream comics. But I'm curious. I would love to get the editor on the show and just ask them, like, what is the mandate from on high? Because that's also not a creative decision at some level.
It's a pun, Gregory. The title's a pun.
I get
They
it.
wanted a punny title for the Halloween
Yes,
anthology.
I understand.
That's the idea.
Who's on the cover? Oh, it's Zatanna.
Well,
Right.
that's on that cover, but there's another cover where it's Plastic Man.
I know. It's
And
true.
another cover.
Where all those melting children. That's the alternate cover, though. You have to order special to get that one.
What this reminds me of, I'm not a DC guy at all. I
Not too late for you. Dan.
know it is too late. I'm never going to
Not
be
too
DC.
late for you to be saved.
I don't think so. But what I used to read when I was a kid, I read tons of Marvel comics, and they had a comic called Marvel Fanfare,
Oh, yeah.
which sounds very similar to this. And it had one of my favorite stories of all time, which was the Hulk gets infected with a virus and then goes on a smashing spree, and then Spider-Man has to stop him. But it's like a cold, it's an alien cold or something like that. But the whole idea, it wasn't just like, that was the cover story, and it was on the cover. It was Spider-Man and the Hulk, but there were other stories of different heroes that I wasn't as familiar with. So is that the point? Is that they attract people with Zatanna and bring
I
them
think
in,
so, yeah.
and then you can see the other.
But it's not like they don't have the A-listers also in there.
No. All that is good. I think that's great. I just wish there were more Zatanna stories. And Zatanna has a big following, a very cult following, and they would have shown up at the newsstand. Not that they won't, but I feel like if I'm now, dear listener, I'm speaking specifically as a former comic store owner. Now, that's where my criticism comes from. If I had ordered 100 copies of these for the store shelves, and all 8 stories didn't have Zatanna in them, I would have been a little annoyed.
But the
I would have been thrilled by
solicits
who's in there.
clearly said that they featured stories with other characters.
I know. I get it. I
But
get
not that none of the other stories don't have Zatanna.
it. That's right. Yeah. So this is just, however,
What we're talking about is a Zatanna series, then. A
That's
standalone book.
yes, let's begin the petition to have you write a new Zatanna standalone.
Right.
Jamal Campbell
On-
just did a great Zatanna series.
On that note, moving forward with DC, I'm curious, would you prefer, if you had your choice, to write for bigger, more established, more mainstream characters, or smaller, lesser known characters that you could have more freedom with? Because if you're going to be writing a Batman or Superman, I imagine the committee on that is a lot bigger than if it's
And in the frame of this thought experiment, let's imagine you did get your choice. We all know editors and publishers, it's not quite like that, but
The answer to that is, and I've heard this from other creatives in the space, those small characters will always be there to write for. There are very few opportunities for people to have meaningful, like long or in-depth chances to write any of the big characters.
Mhm.
And if you get the opportunity to do so, you take it.
right.
So, like, if someone were to put down, 4 pieces of paper and say, you can pick one of these series to write, and one's Batman, and one's Plastic Man, and one's Mr. Miracle, and one's, I don't know. Give me another character, Gregory.
Green Lantern,
Sure. Green Lantern's pretty big.
Yeah.
But you take
Firestorm.
you take the Batman book, and you know that when your time on Batman is over, your chance to write Plastic Man will still be there.
I don't know. Plastic Man's pretty interesting.
Dead Man is where I want to go.
Dead Man.
I would do a Dead Man story. DC, if you're listening, I'll do a Dead Man story. Give me a one shot.
But that character there will always be a chance to do that. There's
Got it.
not always a chance to write a Batman book. Even though Batman is the mega seller that keeps comic store lights open month after month. And if Batman ever dips below 100,000 copies, like, stores go out of business.
Loaded with stage presence. I can't decide. Does he remind me more of Errol Flynn or Valentino?
It's kind of like there's the index for unemployment, right? There's a correlation for deaths right? As unemployment dips down, there's like these other stacked up things with comics in the comics world. Same kind of thing. There are certain titles, Spider-Man being one and Batman being another, where if those sales are dropping, it means bad things for a lot of places.
Yeah, like it
Right.
means bad things for the whole industry.
Yeah.
type of thing.
And so, despite our sometimes, I wouldn't even say sometimes, our regular shots at the mainstream for people who are paying their mortgages by the books that people like to buy, go support I bet, dear listener, one of you out there has a bunch of comics on your pull list that you haven't gone to pick up for a few months.
You should go pick those up.
You should pick those up.
That comic book store needs that money.
Yeah, they need you. They paid already for it.
Yeah.
And they can't return those. So they're on the hook for that. Okay, so I want to ask you as a writer, what is the difference between, and we'll compare apples to apples in this case a little more closely, your short, the process of you writing a script for a short story like your Zatanna story, or,
How many pages was it? Just 10?
10 pages.
Yeah.
and that brings us to Dire Beast.
That's right.
Also 10 pages.
Oh, we did Dire Beast. It was 10
Right.
pages.
So
I drew that one.
Yeah.
I didn't draw this one.
Tell me about the difference between that script process for you and the idea process, and anything that comes to mind that is separate from.
Well, Dire Beast is better because we do spreads. And
This is one of Justin's first. Justin's turn to have his
the book.
criticisms
That's right.
of
These
this
spreads.
anthology was that he didn't like that they're not all spreads. He doesn't like that stories start on the even numbered side or the odd numbered side. Sorry.
well, especially we don't have to talk about this long, but I'm just looking at one particular spread where like there is not a clear end and a clear beginning. It's just suddenly a shift in style.
Mhm.
And so I just think that's a rocky way to finish one story and enter into a new story. That's
Completely
that's it. I'm
The page turn should be up to
stepping off the soapbox now.
the reader. The reader should change the experience, not the editor. But hey, that's just our soapbox.
That would mean that you'd have to have the last page of every comic essentially be a double page spread because you need to take advantage of the
Yeah.
page turn and then you need to have an immediate page turn
Mhm.
after.
Almost like that's within our power to do as creative people. Yeah.
But-
But I will say something about this that I'm just now realizing. DC Comics, I was giving you some real guff a minute ago. I'd like to take some of that back because there are no ads in this book.
I know. I noticed that too.
Oh,
There are no
That's
ads
cool.
at all in this. Okay.
Well, and that was going to be my like. They could have just put the ads to make it double page, but there are no ads in this book. Yeah.
DC,
is that new? Is that a standard thing for comics now?
that's either a really bad sign or a really good sign. I'm not sure.
It might be a thing for because this book's already so large.
The one shot, yeah.
So I imagine there's ads in the standard 22 page floppies, but this book's 80 pages. That's why I bought many copies of it, or I'm going to have many copies of it because it's so large. But to answer your earlier question, I can't liken this creative process with Dire Beasts in any way.
In no way at all.
In no way at all.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Because my process for creating Dire Beasts, for which I was responsible for illustrating, was completely different.
You had to write what you could draw.
That's
you
right.
had to like connect
Yeah.
those things at all times.
I
Like,
had to deliver on.
okay, if this is going to happen in the story, I'm responsible for bringing that into
That's
reality,
right, yeah.
and I need to be able to do that.
What
yeah.
tools are in my toolbox that I can bring for the illustration?
Well, and as an illustrator, we kind of reverse engineer that. Like, think of like, oh, I really want to draw blank, and now what kind of story can I attach
Yeah.
to that kind of scene, that kind of action, those kinds of characters? Because they're it's
And-
very different.
And for mine, it was like, what kind of story do I want to tell? But can I draw that?
Right,
Probably not.
and you didn't have to care about that. And
No,
Zatanna.
because John can draw anything.
yeah,
Well, and I would say that this is probably what happened in Andrew McLean's story. McLean or McLean? Do we know?
It's McLean.
I'm
I've
sorry,
always
Andrew.
said McLean.
Love your work. As a Kamichuk, you've spent, if you ever pronounce my name, it'll be wrong. So we're even. I feel like this was a person who wanted to draw Swamp Thing, wanted to draw werewolves, and then figured out the rest.
yeah, style's so perfect.
And then I don't know if this is true, but maybe editorial said, "Oh, can you put Constantine in there?" And Andrew probably said, "Yeah."
Sure.
As long as
Guy in
he
a trench
also
coat?
turns into a werewolf.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Right?
I think the story opens on that, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think we're okay. And they're only 10 pages. If you're that invested, I think you need to step back. Now, other than the fact that you had a completely different creative experience, can you speak now to the fact that, do you know the order numbers on this book?
I have no idea. And they don't release that data anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Because it used to be that Diamond did it.
Diamond did,
doesn't
yeah.
do anything now.
Let's say conservatively it's 30,000 copies, but it's much more than that, I bet.
I feel like, I don't know if it's much more than that.
It's got to be more than that. But even if it was that, that's your biggest selling book ever. The thing with your name on it that has the most hands touching it, criticizing it, looking at it.
Yep.
And I want to know what you've done in your heart to prepare for the fact that comic criticism is the worst.
What have I done to prepare for
Yeah,
it?
comic fans, when they don't like something,
Yeah.
go immediately to the internet and are the absolute worst.
Yeah. My biggest fear was that no one would say anything about it at all. And so if there are people criticizing it, it means they've read it.
Right.
And that's really all I wanted in this short.
So you're hoping Reddit is just full of people
I'm
Just
commenting.
check it at the end of the day.
Don't
See what
check-
Don't check it on the.
So this is my advice to you. Once the digits of your sale numbers pass 10,000, there is no helpful criticism that will help you be a better creative by looking at what people say about the work. I can tell you this from some experience. It will not help you. It will only hurt you. Stay away. Stay away. Just work on the next thing and send it to the editor. All you care about is, did the DC editors like your work? And do the Marvel editors, did they notice your work? And can they see the next pitch?
I hope so. I'm going to send it to them.
That's right. And well, you should.
I think you're going to get some positive comments too. I think you're going to get people finding you on social media after reading this and say, hey, great story. Thank you very much. And good job.
That'd be cool.
Wow,
Oh,
that'd be
that's-
cool.
yeah.
That's that. We haven't had social media like that since 2005.
That's the thing, yeah.
Is that
People
okay?
are gonna like it, but those people then don't go to the internet to say that they
Right.
Okay.
Only the opposite.
It's
that-
like product reviews online. Like the only people who write a review about something on Amazon or Home Depot
people who
are
write
upset
reviews.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So, I think that it's a really good story. I think that your writing and the art pair really well together. I hope, my secret wish is that you and John work together on other stories together. Is there a way for you to make that happen?
Sure, if I figure out his page rate and can afford to pay him.
But could you and he now pitch together? Do you have a little bit of, like, I think what people always want to know, and these are leading questions, Lyndon, I know they are, but this is for the dear listener's sake. People want to know, is there a shortcut to the next step? And so they assume that if you're paired with an artist who has a long history with the comics, oh, Lyndon, you must be on the fast track now. So this gives you the ability to dispel rumors of your fast track in the mainstream by telling people how it really works.
Consider them dispelled.
Yes.
I mean, I think the reality is if you're an established writer with a brand that people recognize, you can request your, no, that's not big enough. You can request your own artist on a project like this, but I couldn't.
Right.
I can't even, safely say I'm going to get another job with DC Comics, never mind be able to make requests.
Yeah, because it's not like that. You're not just in now.
No.
It's by project, by pitch, by review.
When they need people, what's the publishing schedule? Where are the gaps? What are the plans? Like everything's planned so far ahead. They have some idea of what they're doing 2 years from now already.
Abracadabra, I sit on his knee. Presto, changeo, and now he is me.
So the danger of any popular media covering you, in my experience, is that the filthy casuals in your life, the friends and family who just are like, heard you wrote stuff and then now see your name and you didn't suggest that they check it out. They now believe you have made it, that you're in the big time.
you don't have to try anymore.
Yeah,
The work's done.
the work's done. That's right. You must be. We have shouts from the peanut gallery here. You must be a millionaire now that you're doing these things.
Let me dispel that.
Yeah. 100 air.
Let me dispel that.
But you have not given up on indie comics. In fact, these are not if and or kind of scenario. You've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. Do you want to talk about some of those Sisyphusian boulders that you're trying to push up all at once?
Well, I think if we're going to get a little bit into the like the making comic side of things, the DC story is a big deal, not because of what may be coming next for DC, though that could be cool, but it's actually the fact that I can then send this existing story to indie comics editors to try and parlay that into more work from them.
It's a stronger pitch than you had before.
It's someone else's seal of approval.
Yeah.
Like someone else has already signed off on my quality of writing, and it exists. And it happens to be with the largest publisher in comics right now because, Dan, Marvel has shrunk.
I don't believe it.
It happened, though. It really did. In the film business, it is often referred to as the requisite number of no's. You've received the requisite number of no's, enough that you're now welcome in the room with the rest of us who have suffered. You've been vetted. People have checked you out. Someone has already given you all the no's, and you finally got a yes by enough people who withhold their yeses that they don't have to check on you so much.
I have a statement, but I don't want it to seem self-flagellating.
Are you kidding?
Um,
We've met you. You barely could take a compliment.
I think I should have gotten more no's.
You think you should have gotten more no's?
Yeah. I feel like I've gotten very lucky, very fortunate, and that
Oh, the no's are coming then.
my path to this book was a lot shorter than it is for a lot of people.
Right.
Was there? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So, was there something in particular that got you this job?
Yeah. His name was Scott Snyder.
There you go.
He didn't get me the job, but he made the introduction for me. And then
But anyone who does a good job in any field won't give an introduction unless they believe a good job will be done as a result
Sure.
of
I mean, that's
the-
because you built a relationship with Scott Snyder, right?
right.
from the work.
Right. But I can't shake this feeling that it should have taken longer. Like
Just because it does for other people, it doesn't mean it has to for you.
You're spending
aware.
too many hours in those discords where there's too many whiny
yeah.
writers that aren't getting any chances.
The sour ones.
Yeah.
that
Look
might be it.
at Dr. Jonathan Ball. His very first published comic was heavy metal, and his very next published comic was a huge hardcover, major worldwide.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just luck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Oh,
he didn't earn that.
Yeah, he didn't earn that. Jonathan, you didn't earn that. Right? You're just, sometimes the work is happening at the right time, in the right place, with the right people, and they know that you can do it, and so they give you a shot.
Yeah, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to discount the work that I put in or the thought that goes into the work, and like the networking, which is really what people need to figure out how to do. More like
Artists and
almost
writers
more
are
than just
that's tough.
doing the work, right? But I'm very fortunate and cognizant of sort of how lucky I've gotten for this opportunity. And, I've had a number of people that have asked, they've been like, oh, congrats. What's the next thing with DC?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And like, I haven't even thought about it because this
Well, it's
is
nothing-
hard enough to get, and I want to enjoy this. And it's hard for me to enjoy things, generally speaking. So I cut you off, Justin. What were you going to say?
You say that like you have a choice of
Right.
what happens,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yeah.
you basically hope that they come back to you and
Right. I mean, I'm going to have to go back to checking in with them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can't. I'm not
Another
expecting-
100 messages in another
Yeah.
100 bottles.
Right.
In
Yeah.
hope that it will touch the shore of the right editor.
Yeah.
And we learned enough about how that world works from the inside at San Diego this year to know that it's nobody's fault that they're hard to reach. It's just the nature of how their jobs function.
Right.
And so sometimes it is just 100 bottles in the water and one washes up and, oh, wow, cool. It just happened to arrive at the right time. I wanted to find a treasure map and it leads to your website.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's all one step at a time. So the book came out today. I'm going to get a bunch of copies and we're going to see what happens next, I guess. I'm going to send it out to a bunch of people.
The future is bright, full of promise.
Let's go to the past.
Oh no.
When did you first start reading comics?
Not until I was 18.
Oh, so not that
That's
long
weird.
ago.
That's right.
You young gun. Okay, so you're 18 years old. You start reading comics. Now, that's late to the comics game for a lot of us. Little Gregory got his 10-cent comics from garage sales when he was probably 10 years old. I don't know if it's 8 or 10, but somewhere in there is when I first read my first ROM.
It was a hairdresser with a stack of comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It was your origin story.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Good memory. My dad would take me to my dad, who is amusingly is bald, but he had a big beard, would go to the he would go to the salon. It's not really salon, barber, and he would get his beard trimmed, and there was coverless comics there, and I started reading those, and I read a ROM, which was crossover with Ant-Man. That was the first real big time comics moment. I loved ants. That's why I looked at it. I was big into ants. And there was a big, horrible, monstrous ant and a little silver robot man. And then a guy with like TV antennas on his head. And I was like, ooh,
Can't go wrong.
yeah, can't go wrong. This is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you? You're 18.
Right.
You want different things than a 10-year-old, I'm pretty sure, when you start reading.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly which Batman movie came out that year. It was probably right around when the third Nolan movie came out.
Ooh.
But what I wanted was to read the source material because we were just getting
Only to discover that there was none for those films.
well there was a bunch for those films. There's just not one central story. I'm going to come back. Remind me to come back to this rant later.
Okay, rant. Writing it down. Rant.
But I remember watching movies, and I grew up watching the Batman cartoon on TV, and wanting to, in some fashion, wanted to read the stories where the big media productions came from. And so I started to get into comics, and I think one of the first comics I picked up at that point, if we remember, the 2011 year was the launch of New 52.
I was going to ask if it was a New 52 launch. Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you remember the biggest title that launched with the New 52?
I remember all the controversy surrounding it in a certain nascent Twitterverse.
And
but
for
yes,
those
it was
people who are not
Batman.
That's right.
super big into comics, this was kind of a hard reset.
Right. It was the
Right.
first
Instead
time.
of Superman number 500 and Batman number 786, resetting the whole universe and all starting again.
Number
For the first time.
Mm.
Like that, DC hadn't done that before. Now they've done it a bunch of times. Oh, here we go.
I'm pushing up my glasses as I say, yes, they did. It was called
actually-
Crisis on the Infinite Earths, and it was a major reset point. Yeah, I will point to the receipt behind you.
But did the
Crisis on
issues
Infinite Earths.
reset? The numbers?
The numbers didn't reset.
The numbers did not
Continuity
reset.
reset.
Yeah, but this is the first time you could go to the store and pick up a Action Comics #1.
Yeah. So just for some context for the dear listener, why this mattered was comics are always on the brink of being lost forever. The whole industry is constantly balanced on a knife edge, whether it can find new readers, whether it can sustain new readership. And so I believe it was Dan DiDio at that time was the editor-in-chief, and they thought, well, the one move we haven't done before is just reset it all to make every title friendly for new readers, and they launched it as a New 52. And why it was called that is every week for 52 weeks there was a long-running comic that came out, a weekly comic that helped to reset and introduce people to the DC Comics universe. This was a major event in the comics space, and it actually reached mainstream media. It reached outside. Teachers that I worked with at the time, because this is back in those hallowed days of my time in education, were saying to me like, oh man, I think I'm going to go pick up a Superman comic. I haven't thought about Superman in years. It was working. It literally did bring it back to the public consciousness.
And what was the big title?
Yeah, it's Scott Snyder's Batman with Greg Capullo.
What's so great here? Tell me that.
Simmer down, okay?
Okay.
So that's when I started reading comics, and did that for 5 or 6 years. Fell off for a year or two when I went away to law school. Then Steven asked me to make a comic with him. I started reading comics again. Here we are.
Ba-bing. And then you happen to be able to reach out to regularly the one person that got you into comics in the first place.
Thank the pandemic for that.
Is that strange?
Uh,
Or does it just feel normal?
It's surreal.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in New York, I was having a meal sitting next to Scott, and I said to him, "You're not going to remember this. That's fine." The last time we met was in San Diego Comic-Con in 2015 when Steven and I traveled there as attendees. And he and I stood in line to get our Batman comics signed, but they had just announced the DC Writers Workshop, the first year of that. And I had asked him how someone could get involved in that program. And then, the next time I met him, it was because at the time we were working on Arcbound together. But now it's now he's leading the absolute lineup at DC, and I get to write the smallest possible thing you can do there.
Yeah.
Which is fine, which is great. But so yeah, there's some weird symmetry there.
But that's like part of the networking thing. Like
Yeah.
Okay, so you met him through an online class or something that he offered, right?
Yeah.
And then but just by being a good student and being engaging and like
And having work.
and having work to show him, and but through your personality, that's how you built up that relationship, and that's why you got this job, and that's why you will continue to get jobs from him.
And honestly, you want to start with a little 10-page and an
Sure.
anthology. Like, how horrifying would it be? Is like, we want you to write a 120-page Superman arc with Batman in it as well.
First,
Like,
they would never do that.
no, but like, and even if they did, like,
the
that
worst
would
thing that could
suck.
happen.
That would be horrifying, right? You're not ready for that yet. Nobody's ready for that.
I can do it. Give me the magnum opus.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to make it since the first day I was born.
It has Batman Beyond in it. I know that.
Yeah,
That's right.
Mm.
So what we've been doing is first we talked about the notion of you entering the mainstream. We've dispelled the rumor that the door is just open now and you can just do mainstream comics. We realize now that all your indie books gave you the strength and the body of work to demonstrate you were ready for a 10-page, you were ready for prime time in a small way, but it's just an opening act. You have a whole bunch of other pitches out in the world right now, which I know you're a little stitious about, so we won't mention them.
There's not that many new pitches floating around right now. I think I only have one or two. The rest is all
now that you have
self
this new-
starter stuff.
Listen to you. How you've changed. One or two pitches out with a couple of publishers is not a big deal
But
anymore.
it's not, because it means nothing.
Right.
Like the 95% odds, 99% odds that the pitch is going to get rejected.
Yeah.
What the thing that every indie or comics maker in general needs to keep in mind that is you can just make comics on your own, which is what we're doing. Like, Steven's about to wrap up Laundryman 2. We're going to kickstart it in a couple months. Zach and I are going to work on another book after that. I've been waiting for going on 2.5 years for Gregory to finish the work that I've already paid him for.
So good.
Yeah. You and I have talked about an idea.
That's right. Yeah.
In fact, Justin tells people I'm working with a new DC writer.
It's my favorite thing. What are you working on next?
But no work's going on.
No. They don't need to know that part. Books take a long time.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that just very briefly as a way to cap the story. Books do take a long time, and people who listen to the show, a number of them want to be in the creative space, they would hear that you've got a story in a new DC project, and they'd be jealous of it. What do you have to say to those people to help them transmute their jealousy into something productive in this next step?
Well, usually, if they're jealous, this is me projecting a little bit.
I can feel it
The
from here.
follow-up question is, how did you get that gig?
Mm-hmm.
And my response is lots of pestering. And that just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah.
But what's been interesting lately is the established people who I've spoken to who are regularly in the mainstream space. When I tell them I've got this DC short that's just come out or is coming out, they say, "Oh, that's awesome. What are you working on now?" Because they also recognize, like, the next thing is what's more important now.
And also, if this is coming out now, it means it happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, so what are you doing now with your time?
Mhm.
And that question is harder than looking at past stuff. So you can almost figure out. There's kind of two camps of people based on how they respond to the news that this short is out. There's the "how did you get that job? How can I get that job?" people, and the "what are you doing now?" And maybe I'm interpreting the subtext of the question is, how are you using that credit now on your next thing? Because they understand that a comics career is not a single project, it's a set of building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And the Satanic Panic is just another building block that I look at as a sort of irreplaceable piece of the comics journey that I've had, or the comics trajectory that I set out on years ago, which was you have to build an audience at all costs, and the most direct way of doing that is to work for the biggest publishers. And whether or not, there are people who work for DC that only ever want to work for DC and have no appetite for indie work, and then there are the people that work for companies like DC or Marvel that use it as a stepping stone to build audiences for their own indie stuff.
For a whole body.
And they have, like, their aspirations are their own work, not to work with licensed characters. And then there are some that fall in the middle. But in both routes, you have to work for one of the companies. It's like, Gregory, one day you'll read A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway.
Yes.
I know, because I lent it to you.
That's right.
But
you know what I did instead? I reread Old Man in the Sea.
Yeah.
I read the first chapter of A Movable Feast, and I was like, oh, this makes me want to read Old Man in the Sea.
Yeah. One of the things in that book, and it's set early in Ernest Hemingway's life when he's living in Paris, and he's only released his first short story collection in our time. One of the things that he's adamant about at that point is if he's going to make it as a writer, he needs to write a novel. He can't just keep writing short stories. And that's sort of the mentality, or is adjacent to the mentality that I have when it comes to comics. Is my dream in comics involves having to work for the big two. Whether or not they will keep me is completely out of my control. But I had to do and have to continue to do whatever to find that work and to keep building that audience.
So to talk in a magician's metaphor, dear listener, topical, I thought on purpose, and to close things out, in a magic show, stage magicians will often do close-up magic at the opening of their show. They will begin the show with a card trick, with a coin trick, with something that shows the total dexterity and their command of magic, so that to the layperson, they're like, oh, it feels like a warm-up for the magician. False. It is the magician's way of introducing to other magicians in the crowd where they're come from, their pedigree, what they've studied, how they've studied it, and why they've studied it. That's all hidden in the language of that little bit of show. So now you have this Zatanna story as your pre-game show. Whenever you're dealing with a editor or someone ready for the big stage, you get to say to them, here's where I'm working. Here is to other professionals who are trying to do this. I don't need to wow the crowd in this few minutes. I need to wow the people who make real decisions in the industry. And this is that for you now.
Dear listener, this episode has been about circles. If you go back to the first time Stephen and I were on Super Pulp Science talking about our upcoming book, Infinite Universe, it may be episode 13, might be episode 16, I think it's episode 13, Gregory tells that exact same story.
Amazing.
About close-up magic trips and about it telling the other magicians in the audience where they're at.
Yeah. So now where are you at? See?
So while we're talking about stories coming back around, thank you for being the perfect example of it once again.
And I will say this, Zatanna's magic is her stating words backwards and forwards. And by going backwards and forwards, you figure out what the real magic trick is. So there it is for you, dear listener. If you're trying to make the magic that is comics, you need to look where you started, look where you're going, and remember that you can gain a lot from revisiting your past. This has been Super Pulp Science. I'm GMB Kamichuk, encouraging you all to join the fight and make comics.